Welcome to Garden Plants with Jim Putnam. Let's talk Edgeworthia chrysantha. This is Edgeworthia chrysantha, otherwise known as Paperbush, is a common name for it. Really great 12-season plant. Has amazing kind of architectural growth to it. It's very long bloomed, one of the very earliest flowering plants, with extremely fragrant, and then beautiful foliage after it's flowered. These are going to be maintained in the landscape probably somewhere around 6x6, 7x7, something like that, with very even growth habit. This one has never been pruned, and you can see it's just a perfect, it's turned into a perfect little dome on its own. In the wild, these can get quite large and almost small trees. But again, in the landscape, typically, they have this even compact habit, and they can be controlled at this size. This thing flowers, it's one of the earliest flowering shrubs. These buds are on it though from late summer, early fall. You'll start to get these little gray flower buds forming at the very ends of the branches, and they have this silver sheen to them. And the flower buds, so you get this anticipation of a very, very long period of time, and then the flowers start opening as the soil temperature rises in the spring. For us here in Raleigh, North Carolina, we can have them. This one's been flowering the entire month of February. We're literally shooting this like 2 days before the end of February, and it's pretty much past peak at this point. We're shooting this video. Probably should have shot it a week ago for really the full vibrant color. Or they can start as late February, early March, depending on how the winter is going. The first few warm days, warm soil days, these things, they'll start opening, and they go from that silver sheen tight bud to pretty much a white color, and then the interior flowers open yellow. There are other colors of Edgeworthia, but the species, Edgeworthia chrysantha, is white with yellow flowers toward the center of the cluster. I can't stress enough how incredibly fragrant these Edgeworthia actually are. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. It's a hyacinth-like fragrance, or a gardenia-like fragrance, in the same family as gardenias, actually. The foliage, once these flowers are done, the foliage will quickly emerge, and it's really beautiful, elongated, bluish-green leaves. And if this thing never flowered, and all you saw was that foliage and then the yellow fall color on it, you'd buy this plant even without the fragrant flowers. And then when it loses the leaves, you get this architecture in the middle of it, which is also quite striking. These are best in part shade. You'll see shade or part shade. I don't think, in the deep shade, it's definitely going to stretch quite a bit, and it's not going to have quite as full a habit. This one is getting direct sun in the morning. The house is blocking it out probably by around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's getting a good amount of direct sun. These are hardy in zone 7 to 10 typically. Those of you in zone 6B, probably in a protected part sun spot, could attempt to grow these as well. So the best place to use an Edgeworthia is someplace where you can allow it to get some size on it. I wouldn't put this where you need to maintain it in a 3-foot by 3-foot little round ball, probably toward the back of a bed as an accent. The foliage is pretty large, and so you can contrast it with, maybe some sort of evergreen that keeps its leaves during the winter time, ground covers around it, other different size and shape foliage to contrast with this really beautiful foliage on this plant. They prefer kind of moist, enriched soil. And in their native range, these are riparian plants, meaning they grow near streams and creeks, that kind of thing. Not down in the water, but they like to be near moist areas and reach their roots down in there. So keep in mind, they will become fairly drought tolerant in a landscape garden like this, but they would prefer to be in some place where the soil's been improved. Other than that, not that big of a deal. They are susceptible to root rot if you're planting them in a space that's in a clay soil where it's not going to drain readily. Not as bad as gardenias, but so when I say they like moist conditions, don't go put them in the wettest spot in your yard. It doesn't drain. In their native habitat, they go in kind of dry, raised spaces and reach down into the water. So if it is a moist area, mound them up just a bit and then let them decide to go down in the water. That's my recommendation. Again, once it's established in the landscape, they're pretty drought tolerant, but it's one I'd keep an eye on during the summertime. They're really good at letting you know. This is one that wilts and tells you it's dry. A lot of the plants in the landscape will just start losing leaves. This is not one of those. It'll let you know. There's really very little maintenance to do on one of these Edgeworthias. We fertilize about now in February with an organic fertilizer. We've got this area mulched. We've got weeds away from it. That's pretty much it. If you put it in a place where you can just let it grow, you really don't have to do any pruning on it. If it does need to be pruned, you'd want to do it after after the flowering. This would be the best time of year to do it. This is a fantastic 12-month plant. So we had the flower buds starting to open in January, flowering in February. Foliage will be out in it in March. Beautiful all season long. Yellow fall color. Then when it loses its leaves, you have the gray buds and this incredible architecture and beautiful bark down in the plant. One other quick thing that may happen, you may get some suckers from the bottom of it, and you can go down and just cut those to the ground if you want to just try to keep it from, having other plants trying to come up through the middle of it. Other than that, it's just not anything to do on this plant whatsoever. You plant it and forget it, except for, then it does this, for a month during the winter time. So this is Edgeworthia chrysantha. Thanks for watching.